Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. In the Land of Origin, the Tianji icefield boasted an expansive territory known as the Black Sky Realm. For endless years, it was shrouded in vast black clouds. The expanse covered by these black clouds was so vast that it was almost comparable to the entire territory of second-tier nations like the Yu Kingdom and the Shi Kingdom. Luohe. Within the depths of the black clouds, a shadowy figure with wings lay hidden. This Luohe certainly has guts. He should have guessed that there's a godly king behind the exotic beast, yet he still doesn't show me any respect, pondered the winged figure. He follows Marquis Chu Yu, a newly promoted first-class marquis. The struggles among the first-class marquises of Emperor Chu's lineage are brutal. It won't be long before Luohe finds himself in trouble. I'll make my move when the opportunity is right, the figure resolved, having lived endless years and becoming increasingly cautious in its actions. To become a being at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, one would be able to maintain complete memories even after reincarnation. Even he was not keen on making powerful enemies without good reason. Yet, he was clear that by subtly fanning the flames at the right time, he could induce many powerful beings into dire straits. This exotic beast is one I have enslaved in secret, never revealing its existence. Now that the exotic beast has exposed its identity, I also used a secret technique to conceal the cause and effect. In the entire Land of Origin, only a handful could trace it back to me. Mused the winged figure. Emperor Qing from Flame-Wind Ancient Country and the reigning Emperor Di Fu both excel in probing causality and could uncover my identity. However, the heavenly bend veins I targeted belong to the controlled territory of Emperor Chu's lineage. Emperor Chu would not stoop to asking Emperor Qing or Emperor Di Fu for help over such a trivial theft. The winged figure was once a guest official of Primal Chaos Realm from Flame-Wind Ancient Country, and during that era, it even reached the level of transcendence of Primal Chaos Realm. After becoming a godly king, its strength naturally grew much deeper, which is why it left Flame-Wind Ancient Country. Many godly kings establish their own nations or factions, believing they have the strength to stand tall in this world. The difficulty of obliterating them is incredibly high. The mountain-sitting guest of the past also thought he was more than capable of self-protection, enough to deal with most dangers in the Land of Origin. He never expected the master of the Shi Kingdom to be so unbridled and reckless. Flame-Wind Ancient Country and Thunder Ancient Country occupy the core territories of the whole Land of Origin, monopolizing nearly all treasures. What does it amount to if I take away just a bit? After all, they are the precious rarities nurtured by heaven and earth, the winged figure thought. The other exotic beasts have not been exposed yet. The winged figure melded into the black clouds. These boundless black clouds were where his true form resided. The entire Black Sky Realm, blanketed by the black clouds, was teeming with countless cultivators, countless exotic beasts, and whenever a Primal Chaos Realm exotic beast was born, it would be quietly enslaved by him. He would then send them to the two great ancient countries to steal various heavenly and earthly rarities. ********************** At Chu capital, Marquis Mansion of Chu Yu. Brother Chu Yu, Luo Feng relayed the details of his mission. Upon hearing, Emperor Chu Yu frowned slightly. This Primal Chaos Realm exotic beast isn't recorded in our intelligence. It must have been nurtured not long ago and was captured and enslaved while still freshly born. I have no idea who its master is behind the scenes. Whoever dares to dispatch an exotic beast to steal heavenly and earthly rarities from Flame-Wind Ancient Country is either strong enough to not fear investigation from Emperor Chu's lineage or is one of the strong individuals within the imperial clan. Emperor Chu Yu was well aware that the most frequent thieves of various treasures were the many marquises within the imperial clan. The marquises were fiercely competitive, and when they couldn't secure enough resources through competition, they began to harbor improper thoughts. Having traced the detailed identity of this exotic beast, your mission is already a success, Emperor Chu Yu said with a smile. As for the rest, there's no need to concern yourself further. Whether the exotic beast is backed by a marquis of the imperial clan or some ancient existence, it's not your place to intervene. Luo Feng nodded. After the exotic beast died, it had no weapon secret treasures, only some heavenly bend stone essence. With that, a wave of his hand. Several pieces of heavenly bend stone essence as tall as half a person, along with a pile of heavenly bend stone essence grains. A total of 23 pieces of heavenly bend stone essence and some fragments, Luo Feng reported. That exotic beast was probably required to periodically hand over some of the stolen heavenly bend stone essence to its master. Marquis Chu Yu glanced and said, 23 pieces and some, valued at more than 23,000 merit points. Keep it. The spoils of war from carrying out a mission are yours to claim. Luo Feng nodded and put it away. Merit points in Flame-Wind Ancient Country were highly valued, and cosmic sand couldn't be exchanged for merit points. From what Luo Feng knew, a complete piece of heavenly bend stone essence would need 1,000 merit points to exchange. But to purchase one from the outside world would cost nearly 300 million cosmic sand, a price that fluctuated because it was rare for anyone to be willing to sell heavenly bend stone essence. By the way, I've made some inquiries about the primal chaos layer creature materials at the perfect level that you need, Emperor Chu Yu said. Our Flame-Wind Ancient Country should have 7 of them. 6 of them are with the Godly King, and 1 is with Marquis Wu Huang. Marquis Wu Huang is of the Emperor Wu lineage, and has a very poor relationship with our Emperor Chu's lineage. Even I will need to spend quite some effort to acquire these primal chaos layer creature materials. It will probably take a considerably long time to get my hands on them. Emperor Chu Yu also found it challenging. If they can't be obtained, then so be it. There's no need to force it, Luo Feng said. As the 8 Tribulations life form first calamity had no record of the transformation method, Luo Feng needed to constantly refine the transformation method himself. Now that Luo Feng had made considerable progress in terms of life spirituality, he also realized that the life structures of the primal chaos layer creatures he had captured were still too simple, with relatively low potential. To deduce more mystical life structures from scratch was exceedingly difficult. Naturally, Luo Feng hoped to obtain more perfect primal chaos layer creatures to study their life composition. But looking at it now, it seemed quite difficult even for Emperor Chu Yu to acquire them. We'll take it slowly, Emperor Chu Yu said with a laugh. I haven't been a top-class marquis for long, and as I get to know more friends over time, there will be ways. If there are 7 perfect primal chaos layer creatures in my Flame-Wind Ancient Country, I refuse to believe that I can't acquire just their materials. Emperor Chu Yu was well aware that the 30 eras after becoming a primal chaos realm cultivator was a protected period with no mandatory tasks, giving him sufficient time to grow. Once the protected period ended, he would have to face the same competitive environment as the other 6 top-class marquises, and he would need the help of guest official Luo He. Time passed, and it had been more than 3 eras since Luo Feng arrived in Chu capital. He devoted himself to comprehending the inheritance of the 8 Tribulations life form first calamity. The inheritance was vast like a sea of smoke. Luo Feng absorbed knowledge and continuously tried to perfect the transformation method. In an elegant pavilion, Marquis Chu Yu sat opposite a woman dressed in crimson armor. Marquis Chu Yu, rest assured. As long as the North Sea Beast Forest is under my management, I will definitely procure the materials from the primal chaos layer creature of perfect layer that you need, the woman in red armor said with a brilliant smile, brimming with confidence. I, of course, trust the vow of the Lianyu City Lord, Marquis Chu Yu said with a smile. Soon, the Lianyu City Lord should receive the appointment. The woman in red armor and Marquis Chu Yu chatted idly as they drank. A moment later. The woman in red armor revealed a look of joy, as she had received a task from the Imperial clan to take charge of the North Sea Beast Forest for 10,000 eras. She did not hesitate to immediately accept the task. Marquis Chu Yu truly keeps his word, the woman in red armor stood up promptly. I'll go to seek my father's help right away. Within 3 days, I will surely bring the materials you need. Marquis Chu Yu stood up. Thank you for the trouble, Lianyu City Lord. In addition to the Imperial clan's godly kings, the Flame-Wind Ancient Country also had some guest elder godly kings. These guest elder godly kings were fully integrated into the Flame-Wind Ancient Country and even granted fiefs, with their descendants thriving there as well. The father of this Lianyu City Lord was the Heaven Capital King, who had been granted a fief by the Flame-Wind Ancient Country. The Flame-Wind Ancient Country did not hold ordinary godly kings in high regard, and those ordinary godly kings didn't qualify to be granted fiefs in the Flame-Wind Ancient Country. This Heaven Capital King was a direct disciple of the primogenitor Yang Feng and addressed emperors as his brothers, making him a formidable figure. The Lianyu City Lord was the only one among the many children of the Heaven Capital King to reach the primal chaos realm. However, the governance of the Flame-Wind Ancient Country was overseen by 13 emperors, with the first-class marquises taking charge. The guest elder godly kings had no right to intervene. Searching the entire primal chaos layer to capture ancient beings of perfect primal chaos layer creatures is either the task of emperors or of beings at the Heaven Capital King's level. Marquis Chu Yu also felt it was not easy. Having planned up to this day, my efforts have finally come to fruition. The promise of the Lianyu City Lord was something Marquis Chu Yu believed in. Phew! Marquis Chu Yu, with his followers in tow, exited the pavilion, including 2 cultivators of the primal chaos realm. The Flame-Wind Ancient Country had some generally weak cultivators of the primal chaos realm, who tried every means to get close to first-class marquises in hopes of seeking opportunities. Emperor Chu Yu. A fierce voice rang out. Marquis Chu Yu's expression changed slightly as he turned to look. He saw 2 figures approaching with a group of followers in tow. Emperor Chu Yu, regarding the task of the North Sea Beast Forest, both Marquis Chu Ji and I sought your assistance. You have given neither of us face. A hideous figure covered in black fur said, his eyes flashing with thunder, I guessed you were aiding the Lianyu City Lord, and it turns out I was right. For the past 3+ eras, I have been yielding on task distributions, but this North Sea Beast Forest mission is critical to me, Emperor Chu Yu stated, I cannot yield any longer. You've gotten bolder, the figure with black fur chuckled strangely, an aura of murder washing over, causing Emperor Chu Yu's heart to skip a beat. Among the 7 first-class marquises, this Marquis Chu Yuan was a madman. With bloodlines from both the Flame-Wind and Thunder Imperial clans, Marquis Chu Yuan suffered many hardships in his youth, which twisted and exacerbated his violent nature. Marquis Chu Yuan would only get along well with Marquis Chu Ji, who had a similar temperament. When you're weak, you should stick to deeds that match your strength, the burly figure beside him said to Emperor Chu Yu. You even think you're worthy of taking on an emperor-level task? We first-class marquises have equal status, Emperor Chu Yu replied with an equally unpleasant expression. I've let go of past emperor-level tasks, not receiving even once. This North Sea Beast Forest mission, because I have never received one before, I naturally have priority. Priority, the ugly black-furred figure shouted in anger, we already told you to yield it to us. And you still dare to compete? Bang! A terrifying force hit Emperor Chu Yu's body, also affecting the followers beside him. Even the 2 cultivators of primal chaos realm at his side felt a terrifying presence sweeping towards them. The formation of the House of Pleasure immediately emerged, as Emperor Chu Yu was blasted back, crashing into the formation, with the 2 primal chaos realm cultivators also slamming into the formation, making a thunderous noise that attracted many guests' attention. As for Emperor Chu Yu's ordinary entourage, they were already reduced to ashes. Oops, I accidentally killed a few of your followers, the ugly black-furred figure cackled, guess I'll be fined a few thousand merit points. Ha ha ha, fine by me. This is a warning, he said. Next time, I won't be so gentle, the ugly black-furred figure turned and walked away. Marquis Chu Ji beside him also looked indifferently at Emperor Chu Yu, saying, Emperor Chu Yu, you know Marquis Chu Yuan's temper. Behave yourself, and you'll suffer less. Otherwise, even I can't stop him. With that, Marquis Chu Ji left as well. The expressions of Emperor Chu Yu and the 2 primal chaos realm cultivators at his side were unsightly. My lord, are we just going to endure this? A cultivator with several tentacles who couldn't help himself said. Let's go back, Emperor Chu Yu said coldly, turning to leave. The many guests of this pleasure place also had quite some status, but seeing the conflict between 3 first-class marquises, none dared to watch for long. 2 days later, Emperor Chu Yu arrived at Luo Feng's cave mansion. Brother Chu Yu, Luo Feng came out to meet him. I have finally not let down Brother Luo his expectations, Emperor Chu Yu laughed heartily. After plotting for 3 eras, I finally obtained the materials from the perfect layer of primal chaos layer creatures. As he spoke, Emperor Chu Yu took out a jade box and opened it. Inside the jade box was a yellow feather that radiated a strange luster, almost like a precious gem. Luo Feng looked at the yellow feather inside the jade box, feeling its incredibly sharp edges and the fluctuations of the void. Emperor Chu Yu smiled from the side. This is the golden feather divine bird under the command of Sky Capital King, naturally born in the primal chaos layer. It was very young when it was born, possessing only the strength of the middle layer of the primal chaos realm. Over time, after the Sky Capital King meticulously nurtured it with various rare treasures, it grew into its most perfect form, already comparable to the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng was amazed. Grown to its most perfect form? The primal chaos layer creatures he had captured himself, such as the silverlight creatures, were either formed by merging 100 silver droplets or even 1,000. These were all very young. According to his own transformation method, 180 billion droplets were the limit for merging silverlight creatures. This golden feather divine bird, though born with primal chaos realm strength, still had room for growth. I conducted a trade with refining Jade City Lord, the daughter of the Sky Capital King, to obtain this feather of the golden feather divine bird, said Emperor Chu Yu. Since it was willingly exchanged, this feather will not self-destruct. Luo Feng expressed his gratitude. Brother Chu Yu, this is a great help to me, thank you. Whether it's cultivators, exotic beasts, or other sentient beings from the primal chaos layer with complete consciousness, wanting to study their body materials. There are only two methods. 1. Destroy their consciousness and naturally you can study their corpses. 2. If the subject is alive, they must be willing. Otherwise, with just a thought, their blood, feathers will self-destruct and disperse. The more powerful the life form, the less likely they are to let other powerful beings study their body materials. Haha, why should we be so formal with each other? Emperor Chu Yu smiled lightly. I'm in my protection period for the first 30 eras of the primal chaos realm, during which both of us can cultivate safely. But once the protection period is over, I might also need your help. Anything you need help with, just say the word, Luo Feng said. During the protection period, there's nothing much you need to help with, just focus on your cultivation. Emperor Chu Yu laughed heartily. I have other matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Luo Feng promptly escorted Emperor Chu Yu to the entrance of his cave mansion. Once Emperor Chu Yu had left, Luo Feng immediately went into seclusion again. Emperor Chu Yu and the conflicts with the other two first-rank marquises were unknown to Luo Feng. On one hand, since arriving in Chu capital, Luo Feng hadn't made many friends. The waters of Chu capital were too deep. The 7 first-rank marquises were already the toughest competitors, not to mention the direct disciples of the emperor and the disciples of other godly kings. The factions were overwhelmingly complex. In the phase where his strength was rapidly increasing, Luo Feng preferred to retreat for cultivation. He was well aware that once his strength was sufficiently strong, the so-called complex situation would quickly become clear. On the other hand, the core of Emperor Chu's lineage's management of numerous affairs was these 7 first-rank marquises. Their conflicts were something the whole of Chu capital dared not discuss. Those who witnessed the conflict kept their silence out of fear. Because angering a first-rank marquis could result not only in death, but could potentially bring disaster to one's family and power base behind them. Moreover, Emperor Chu Yu himself wanted to keep these details confidential, not wanting them to affect Luo Feng. He naturally hoped that guest official Luo he would focus solely on his cultivation, the stronger the better. Marquis Chu Ji and Marquis Chu Yuan are both at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Marquis Chu Ji has 2 guest elders, Marquis Chu Yuan has 1. Between their camps, there are 5 individuals at the pinnacle tier of the primal chaos realm. Emperor Chu Yu was well aware of their strength, plus some others in the primal chaos realm who follow these 2. The 2 marquises have allied themselves, making their side the most powerful. Although Brother Luo he is also at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, he is ultimately alone, against their 5. Moreover, Marquis Chu Yuan, carrying the bloodlines of 2 ancient imperial clans and is heavily nurtured by the old ancestors, is among us 7 first-rank marquises, the most likely to achieve transcendence of the primal chaos realm, Emperor Chu Yu had to admit this point. Among the 7 first-rank marquises, Marquis Chu Yuan is the most reckless and aggressive one, but he is also the most talented and powerful. At the pinnacle tier of the primal chaos realm, without a significant gap in strength, it's very hard to completely kill an opponent. However, there are still levels of strength, just like how Luo Feng can suppress Marquis Liu Yin. Marquis Chu Yuan has never encountered an opponent in the pinnacle tier of the primal chaos realm. Even the godly emperor ancestor highly appreciates his talents. Now, my strength has reached the top of the primal chaos realm, Emperor Chu Yu silently said. By the end of the protection period, my strength must advance further. Even if I haven't reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, I must make it so that Marquis Chu Yuan can't touch me. Emperor Chu Yu also had ambitions. In his youth, he chose the path of unlimited godly bodies. Naturally, he aspired to reach the godly king tier. Forcing me to concede. Relinquish many resources. Without resources, how can I grow stronger? Emperor Chu Yu's eyes flashed coldly. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Within Luo Feng's cave mansion, in the quiet room of seclusion, within a space inside the Star Tower. Luo Feng, who was uninvolved in the various powers of Chu capital and made no friends, focused solely on cultivation. This feather. Luo Feng looked at the yellow feather in front of him, pinching it lightly, pulling at it, exceptionally tough, and the edges are like blades. With a thought, the yellow feather flew out, hovering in midair. Luo Feng stretched out a finger, the tip barely visible with sharpness. Whoosh! With a gentle wave of his hand, he sliced off a small tuft of down at the edge of the feather. Luo Feng even felt a bit of resistance. In close combat, I am far more formidable than using the galaxy transformation method, yet cutting through the small down still posed some resistance, Luo Feng silently remarked, then gripped that tiny tuft of down and suddenly exerted force. The terrifying power that transcended the physical realm and reached the zenith of the primal chaos realm burst forth, completely shattering the tiny filament of fur into the most fundamental particles. What is this? A tiny filament of fur, once shattered, turned into tens of thousands of particles. Are these particles as well? Luo Feng observed with slight confusion, noticing some law secret patterns on the surface of the particles. At first glance, they resembled the particles from other transformation methods like the galaxy transformation method and the black abyss transformation method, but the life spirituality feels extremely strong. It's thousands, even millions of times stronger than the life spirituality of my 5 transformation methods, representing a qualitative change. Why do these particles possess such strong life spirituality? Luo Feng lightly waved his hand and split a particle open. As the particle split, Luo Feng instantly saw clearly. This particle contained the law secret patterns of primal chaos, and inside it even encapsulated 2 particles that were merging with each other. One larger particle encompassing 2 smaller ones? Are the 2 smaller particles partially merged? Luo Feng observed and continued to split the even smaller 2 particles. As they split, they revealed many law secret patterns, while also completely disintegrating. Fusion of yin-yang? The Trinity. At that moment, Luo Feng understood the basic life structure of this mightiest primal chaos layer creature and also why this particle could harbor such powerful life spirituality. A form embodying yin-yang fusion contains endless mysteries, divided into pure yin, pure yang, and the fusion part of yin and yang. And the Trinity further complicates the complexity. Luo Feng cut open another particle to closely observe. Black and white can be considered yin-yang, life and death can be considered yin-yang, and matter and energy can also be regarded as a type of yin-yang. Yin and yang is a state. Particles from the same origin display different states and yet perfectly merge. Regarding the fusion of yin and yang, it's documented in the Body of Life chapter of the First Calamity in 8 Tribulations Lifeform. Luo Feng used this inheritance to understand the beginning of unity, fusion of yin-yang, the Trinity, 10 directions world. 8 Tribulations Lifeform, this inheritance, describes various forms of the body of life. The Trinity is too complex, demanding higher requirements of life spirituality and the body of life. First, try the simpler form of yin-yang. After understanding the inheritance, Luo Feng began to refine his transformation methods. Whoosh! Divine power transformed into two droplets joined together. This combination, however, appeared quite ugly and contained only average life spirituality. The yin-yang form is about complementing each other. Luo Feng tried again after dispersing the previous attempt. Time passed. After numerous attempts, each time learning from the lessons and studying the inheritance further, he also cut open the golden feather divine bird's particles to observe carefully. The golden feather divine bird under the command of Heavenly King could sense its body's material being cut, but as the transaction was legitimate, it could only let everything happen without daring to actively obliterate that one feather. Whoosh! Not knowing how many times he had tried, this time Luo Feng waved his hand, and two droplets of silver light combined, yet with a sense of beauty of life, the life spirituality being 10 times stronger than before. This is the feeling. Luo Feng revealed a surprised expression, immediately changing forms repeatedly. A single transformation produced millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of droplets. Luo Feng's soul was mighty now, his spiritual will even stronger, and his transformation methods were executed faster and faster. Soon, 180 billion droplets of silver light formed, each pair combining. Buzz! A contained silver light galactic river formed, and while it looked ordinary, Luo Feng could feel that his ability to merge his consciousness was much stronger, and its might had increased several times. Having been in Chu capital for so long, my transformation methods have finally undergone a qualitative change. Luo Feng showed pleasure. Now, my spiritual will has reached the threshold of the second realm of Godly King, and I can also manipulate more galaxy blade light. The overall might of this galaxy blade light compared to when I was in Huyang City should have increased tenfold. Luo Feng was quite happy. Like the spiritual will in the standard layers of primal chaos realm, it gradually and slowly elevated, only experiencing a qualitative change from the bottleneck of the primal chaos realm to the Godly King tier. The spiritual will of a Godly King also progresses gradually, from the first realm to the third realm, all through slow accumulation. This kind of accumulation is very difficult, and even ancient Godly Kings struggle to take even one step further over endless years. My spiritual will being able to progress from the first realm of Godly King to the threshold of the second realm, the key factor is the transformation of my life stage. Luo Feng knew this. When he had been an eternal true God, he already possessed the will of a Godly King. Upon becoming a being of the primal chaos realm and after the growth of his perfect divine body, his soul became even stronger, naturally resulting in a slight uplift in his spiritual will. Unless I elevate my life stage and reach the Godly King tier, which could aid my spiritual will, otherwise, I will need to slowly accumulate. Luo Feng was well aware how gradual the normal progression and enhancement was. His spiritual will had been at the pinnacle will of the primal chaos realm in his true God phase. As an eternal true God, by nurturing his godly body and utilizing the Calamity Beast diagram, he broke through to the will of a Godly King. In the primal chaos realm, he advanced a small step, reaching the threshold of the second realm of Godly King. As time flowed gently by, Emperor Chu Yu of Emperor Chu's lineage appeared to be much more low-key during the distribution of tasks among the 7 first-rank marquises. And in the blink of an eye, half a century had passed. Finally, it's my turn to have priority again. Emperor Chu Yu, with the help of the first-rank Marquis command, had discovered a newly emerged Emperor-level task. Even among the first-rank marquises, Emperor-level tasks were rare, and the 7 had to choose in sequence. Guardian of the Ghostfire World? Emperor Chu Yu gazed at the task, his eyes ablaze with excitement. This task might even be more valuable than the Northern Sea Beast Forest. My priority rights. With a cold smile, Emperor Chu Yu did not hesitate to claim the task for himself. After being taught a lesson last time, he had kept a low profile for half a century. Now, at this crucial moment, he made his move again. As he seized the task, the other 6 first-rank marquises were also informed simultaneously. Interesting. It seems we've underestimated this Chu Yu. He's quite bold. He dares to snatch it directly. He's asking for death. No hurry, Marquis Chu Yuan will surely be the first to act. The other first-rank marquises each had their own thoughts. Indeed, upon realizing that Emperor Chu Yu had dared to use his priority rights to claim the emperor-level task, Marquis Chu Yuan was immediately consumed by nameless rage that scorched his entire body, and even his soul. A newly advanced being of primal chaos realm with weak strength should just bear it. How dare he compete with me? Marquis Chu Yuan was furious. In his view, only those at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm had the qualification for a fair competition. A newly advanced being from the primal chaos realm, even with the aid of unlimited godly bodies and the resources of a first-rank marquis for cultivation, still had a huge gap in strength and was not qualified to compete with the Emperor Chu Yu. Marquis Chu Yuan contacted Emperor Chu Yu, transmitting his voice directly. You've got some nerve to snatch an emperor-level task. What? Am I, a first-rank marquis, not qualified to seize an emperor-level task? Emperor Chu Yu responded indifferently. Transmitting his voice across the vast distance, he was not afraid of that madman. It seems the lesson from last time didn't work on you, Marquis Chu Yuan's voice transmitted with murderous intent. I hear you, Marquis Chu Yuan, are very powerful. Among the 7 first-rank marquises, you are the strongest. Even fighting many at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm without meeting an adversary? Emperor Chu Yu said with interest, I am currently inside my mansion. If you have the guts, kill your way here. Marquis Chu Yuan paused. Storm into the first-rank Marquis mansion? Even a guest elder's cave mansion could harness a trace of the power of Chu capital city, something that even beings who had transcended the primal chaos realm feared immensely. And a first-rank Marquis mansion could harness even more of the city's power. Even some ancient godly kings wouldn't dare to charge in recklessly. You're just going to hide in your mansion? Marquis Chu Yuan said. You guessed right, I have no mandatory tasks before the protection period. So during the protection period, I will stay inside the Marquis mansion. Emperor Chu Yu responded leisurely, I won't step out of the mansion. What can you do to me? Marquis Chu Yuan was infuriated. I will not yield on any task, Emperor Chu Yu said coldly. You and I are both first-rank marquises. Think you can suppress me? Delusional. Very well, that's just great. Marquis Chu Yuan's face twisted. Emperor Chu Yu immediately cut off the communication, unwilling to deal with that madman any longer. Inside his own Marquis mansion, Emperor Chu Yu was completely fearless. After cutting off the transmission, Emperor Chu Yu thought for a moment, then immediately contacted Luo Feng, guest official Luo He. I have some conflicts with the other first-rank marquises. It's best if your disciples don't go outside for the time being. Oh! Luo Feng, who was in seclusion, received the message. Don't worry, I will instruct them. Luo Feng had entrusted Morosa, Moyu Qingyang, and primordial ancestor with instructions. Marquis Chu Yuan, driven to fury, caused thunder to flicker as he instantly tore apart the pavilion building he was in, and even 2 maids outside the pavilion were caught in the aftermath. The maids were turned to ash in an instant amidst their terror and despair. Damn it! Damn it! Marquis Chu Yuan's eyes were completely filled with lightning. Just then, a figure appeared high in the sky, none other than Marquis Chu Ji. Chu Yuan. Marquis Chu Ji rebuked, striking at the soul, restoring some clarity to Marquis Chu Yuan's eyes, who then looked up to see Marquis Chu Ji descending. Big brother, Marquis Chu Yuan gritted his teeth. This Emperor Chu Yu did it on purpose, he is deliberately provoking me. Yes, he is deliberately provoking you, making you go mad again, so that you break the laws set down by our primordial ancestor. Then, he can imprison you in the Ghostfire world for 10,000 years, Marquis Chu Ji scolded. Marquis Chu Yuan paused, looking at the only brother he trusted. You've come this far, become a first-rank marquis, after enduring many hardships, Marquis Chu Ji said, you have exceptional talent, and you even have hope to transcend the primal chaos realm. At this time, don't fall for the other's scheme. If you go mad and act recklessly, it will only amuse Emperor Chu Yu. Marquis Chu Yuan nodded. In all matters, pay attention to the laws. As long as you don't break the prohibitions, that's all that matters. Marquis Chu Ji was also helpless. This brother of his still had some sense left, but as he cultivated the primordial secret method inheritance, his temperament became increasingly uncontrollable. Many of the Thunder Ancient Country's imperial clan members have uncontrollable tempers, bursting out at times to confront even godly kings. My brother has certainly inherited some of the traits of the Thunder Ancient Country's imperial clan, Marquis Chuji thought to himself. Having inherited the bloodlines of two great imperial clans, and after becoming a being of primal chaos realm, Primordial Ancestor personally guided Marquis Chu Yuan in his cultivation, causing his strength to soar. Summon a few guest elders to come over, we'll discuss and find a solution, Marquis Chuji said. All right, Marquis Chu Yuan nodded, reining in his temperament. A moment passed. Marquis Chuji, Marquis Chu Yuan, and the three guest elders gathered. These five pinnacle of primal chaos realm existences discussed the matter, which was also a way for Marquis Chu Yuan to vent his anger. Given Marquis Chu Yuan's temper, failing to vent his anger would only make him grow more irate. Emperor Chu Yu said that during the protection period, he would stay within the Marquis mansion and not take half a step outside, said Marquis Chu Yuan, his ugly face full of thick black hair bristling with fury. I really wish I could smash him into a pulp. Fine, if he won't step out, I refuse to believe his wife and children won't. To act against the close relatives of a first-rank Marquis is equivalent to taking action against the Marquis himself, added Marquis Chuji from the side. I'm not going to kill them, just rough them up a bit, Marquis Chu Yuan, his body emitting black chi, insisted, as long as they don't die, it's merely a minor punishment. Taking action against relatives is crossing the line, Marquis Chuji shook his head. This isn't allowed, that isn't allowed, then what can we do? Marquis Chu Yuan said angrily. The man in blue robes on the side chuckled, Marquis Chu Yuan needn't hurry. The reason Emperor Chu Yu is unyielding is because he wants to compete for resources, so we should strike at what he cares about the most. Isn't his biggest help at the moment that guest official Luo He? There are no laws against disciplining a guest official, and not even death would be investigated. In the Flame-Wind Ancient Country, there were many guest officials, and strife among them was common. The Ancient Country couldn't possibly manage it all. Right, the most powerful person beside him is that Luo He, nodded Marquis Chu Yuan, but Luo He is at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm level, certainly practicing several life-saving secret techniques, making it too difficult to kill him outright. He wasn't confident either. While we may not be able to kill him outright, as long as we destroy him once and take away the treasures he carries, it will certainly be a huge blow to him, the man in blue robes said. A strong person like him would carry the treasures he has accumulated over the long years with him. Die once, lose all his treasures, and even if he could survive by using life-saving techniques, the pain would be immense, said an old woman at his side. With our means, we might not be able to kill him outright, but taking his treasures will not be difficult, said an old man whose left arm was encircled by golden rings leisurely. Good. Marquis Chu Yuan nodded, he's hiding himself, so we'll act against his guest official. Let's see if this guest official Luo He will dare to continue helping Emperor Chu Yu. Luo Feng did indeed entrust Morosa, Moryu Qingyang, and the primordial ancestor, so even if they went out, they were just divine power incarnations taking a stroll. In Chu capital, Thousand Star Tower. I was once suppressed by the primordial cosmos for most of a reincarnation era, intently perceiving the myriad states of beings and the movement of all things. The primordial ancestor sat in a small building within the Thousand Star Tower, drinking as he observed the lives of the beings outside, yet the myriad states and rules of movement of the beings in the land of origin are much more mysterious. After obtaining a wealth of inheritance from the Heart Shadow sect, the primordial ancestor started integrating many experiences of his predecessors and began to create a Dharma at the eternal level for the virtual universe. As the Dharma started to take shape, the primordial ancestor's strength improved significantly. Sometimes, what's real is also an illusion, and an illusion can also be reality, the primordial ancestor smiled. With my Dharma in its initial success, I can form an illusionary avatar, which possesses a third of my true body's strength, the primordial ancestor said contentedly. I hear that even among beings of primal chaos realm, there are few who have the method of creating an avatar. Suddenly, a ripple descended. The primordial ancestor saw a figure in a blue robe standing to the side, its intangible might already completely binding the primordial ancestor. At this moment, the primordial ancestor felt as though the blue-robed figure was like an endless heaven and earth, leaving no room for resistance, with the gap between them being unimaginably huge. "Are you the primordial?" the blue-robed figure looked at him. Indeed, this was an eternal true God-level physical body, not some divine power incarnation. "May I know what the great saint desires?" The primordial ancestor rose to pay respects. "I hear that the guest official Luo he went to great lengths for you, bringing you to Chu capital," said the blue-robed figure leisurely. "Send a message to Luo he promptly. Tell him, if he doesn't come, you're as good as dead." The primordial ancestor was slightly taken aback. "Yes, I will send the message immediately." The primordial ancestor still kept a very low profile. Inside Luo Feng's cave dwelling, Luo Feng was summoned from his secluded cultivation. "Primordial ancestor, is there an urgent matter?" Luo Feng looked at the primordial ancestor. "Luo Feng, my illusionary avatar in the city's thousand-star tower encountered the guest official Great Saint Tianyu of Marquis Chu Yuan. He wants you to go there immediately, otherwise he will kill me," said the primordial ancestor. "But don't worry, he only captured my illusionary avatar." Illusionary avatar? Great Saint Tianyu couldn't recognize it. Luo Feng was surprised. He hadn't even cultivated an avatar himself yet. The inheritances from the Heart Shadow sect didn't have any secret technique for avatars. Could the primordial ancestor possibly have managed to cultivate an illusionary avatar? "The illusionary avatar is also a real physical body, just weaker than my main self," the primordial ancestor explained. Luo Feng nodded slightly. If the primordial ancestor was captured, he would have been somewhat troubled. Now, Luo Feng was only filled with burning fury. They had started targeting people close to him. Luo Feng's killing intent grew even more intense. "You must be careful. If they ask you to go there, there may be an ambush waiting," the primordial ancestor cautioned. "Don't worry." Luo Feng nodded, then stepped forward and disappeared into the void. Thousand-Star Tower, merely a somewhat ordinary merchant in Chu capital, yet today marked its most special day ever. 2 first-rank marquises and 3 guest officials of Primal Chaos Realm were inside Thousand-Star Tower. "The fate of Great Saint Luo he is blurred, and causality is converged. It is very hard to discover much about him," said the old woman next to Marquis Chu Ji. "His rise was abrupt, and even close friends are exceedingly rare. He might be the reincarnation of some old fellow. When we make our move later, we must give it our all. Against any pinnacle of Primal Chaos Realm cultivator, we cannot afford the slightest carelessness," said the old man with rings of gold on his left arm. The man in blue robes sneered, "The pinnacle of Primal Chaos Realm, already touching the threshold of Godly King. However, this Luo he specializes solely in the cultivation of the physical body, and his moves are rather clumsy, which actually makes him easier to deal with. Like the origin Tao of time, origin Tao of space, origin Tao of causality, and so on. Many Taos, if reached the pinnacle of Primal Chaos Realm, are very unpredictable, and capturing or killing them is very difficult. Like Luo Feng defeating Marquis Liu Yin before, but he couldn't retain him. And those who specialize solely in the physical body, while indeed tough to annihilate, usually have other aspects that are weaker. No matter what the opponent is like, we must go all out, Marquis Chu Ji stated. The stronger the physical body, the better, for I can enjoy the battle more, snarled the black-haired, ugly Marquis Chu Yuan. Soon, I'll smash him with thousands of clubs, turn him into a pile of mush. Let's see how strong his physical body is. The other 4 pinnacles of Primal Chaos Realm were already used to Marquis Chu Yuan's temperament. In the imperial clan of Flame Wind Ancient Country, such rampant madness was rare. Yet in Thunder Ancient Country's imperial clan, most of the powerful members were like this, with only a few being calm and rational. "He's here," the old woman spoke, gazing off into the distance with a somewhat anxious heart. Being a student of the origin Tao of causality, she always felt that Luo his fate was too hazy, she could see too little. Woo! A man in black emerged from the void, his forehead adorned with a cluster of dark golden spikes, his face bearing a hint of chill. As soon as he stepped out, he looked toward Thousand-Star Tower, immediately focusing on those 2 first-rank marquises and 3 guest officials. Marquis Chu Yuan, Marquis Chu Ji, and the 3 guest officials, Luo Feng observed them. "You all have statuses, yet you dared to make a move against the eternal true God by my side." Guest official Luo, he has been staying inside his cave mansion without going out. "We merely used a small trick to kindly invite guest official Luo he to meet," Marquis Chuji said smilingly, his voice hearty. "Surely, guest official Luo he is also aware of some conflicts we have with Emperor Chu Yu. Since coming to Chu capital, I have been in closed-door cultivation and am not very clear about the details of the conflicts among the first-rank marquises," Luo Feng spoke. Marquis Chuji and the others were somewhat surprised. As a guest elder invited by Emperor Chu Yu, he does not know about Emperor Chu Yu's conflicts with them. "Well, it doesn't matter if you don't know," Marquis Chuji continued. "We give you two options. 1. Distance yourself from Emperor Chu Yu and no longer assist him. 2. Continue to help Emperor Chu Yu and be our enemy. Two paths. You choose one." Choosing a guest elder needs to be done carefully. Emperor Chu Yu was initially worried about encountering an ingrate and preferred to select someone trustworthy and with great potential for gradual cultivation. The first time Emperor Chu Yu invited Luo Feng, he thought Luo Feng was an eternal true god of unlimited godly bodies and hoped to support each other for mutual growth. Emperor Chu Yu was prepared for an early period of restraint. Only later, Luo Feng's strength was unexpectedly strong. "Choose between two paths." Luo Feng looked at them, with a smile that was not quite a smile. "You think you are fit to make me choose?" Marquis Chu Yuan, Marquis Chu Ji, and the three guest officials suddenly changed color. "We fit too." Marquis Chu Ji's eyes flashed with anger, and the inherently hot-tempered Marquis Chu Yuan's body surged with thunder. "Chemph." The blue-robed man coldly huffed. An illusionary avatar of the primordial ancestor, who had been bound and unable to move aside, instantly vanished, and the sky around Thousand Star Tower grew dark. The old woman glanced at Luo Feng. A silent spiritual attack enveloped Luo Feng, obscuring his mind, blurring his perceptions. But Luo Feng, who had reached the second realm of Godly King in terms of spiritual will and possessed the Lai Yuan technique, was not bothered by this confusion at all. Causality obscuring? Luo Feng detected the opponent's move. The opponent's spiritual will level was just entering the threshold of Godly King, but this spiritual attack aimed to blur all his perceptions. This must be Zun guest official by Marquis Chu Ji's side, adept at the law of causality, and the origin Tao of causality is indeed mysterious and unpredictable. The old man with rings of gold on his left arm stared at Luo Feng, the circles of gold on his left arm vanishing into thin air. 5 illusionary rings of gold appeared out of nowhere, encircling Luo Feng, and instantly tightening, the 5 rings binding Luo Feng's body, containing powers of seal, bind, strangle, and suppress. "Luo, he didn't avoid my golden bands," the old man sneered upon seeing this. "His true body is definitely doomed." Seeing the 5 golden bands trap Luo Feng, the blue-robed man revealed a smile, and the entire area faintly manifested a grand array. As the array operated, countless chains of heaven and earth enveloped Luo Feng. Marquis Chu Ji showed a slight smile, victorious. The moment Luo he was trapped by the golden bands, the outcome was already determined. "Is this your capability?" Luo Feng's voice suddenly rang out, his body slightly exerting force. All the basic components of his 5 types of transformation methods had already transformed into yin-yang particle form, his power tremendously increasing. Luo Feng's 5 transformation methods, 4 of which are for close combat. Using the Galaxy Transformation method, Luo Feng could now simultaneously execute 23,000 blade lights during the use of the blade technique of Primal Chaos Realm. In close combat, which merely bursts forth immense power and puts little strain on the spiritual will, Luo Feng was able to unleash over 10 billion units of power through the transformation method, reaching an unimaginably powerful level. Boom, 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 boom. With a single exertion, all 5 golden hoops shattered. Every heavenly chain that touched the surface of Luo Feng's clothing naturally disintegrated upon contact. This scene shocked both the first-class Marquis and the 3 guest officials of the Primal Chaos Realm. "My 5 golden hoops, shattered?" The elderly man couldn't believe what he saw. "These are weapon secret treasures, and they're broken?" He could accept the golden hoops being stretched out. But shattering instantaneously? When the chains formed by the heaven and earth array touched Luo Feng's clothing, they disintegrated naturally. He could distinctly sense the incredible power that was encountered at the moment his controlled chains touched Luo Feng's clothing. Upon contact, they were annihilated. Escape quickly. He is not just at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, he has transcended it. The man in the green robe transmitted a message while trying to flee simultaneously. Rumble tilde 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 tilde. Centered around the 1,000-star tower, endless silver light emerged, enveloping and forming a colossal silver cage that now completely enclosed the entire 1,000-star tower. Thinking of leaving? Luo Feng took a step forward, his figure traversing through the void, already appearing beside the man in the green robe. His 5 fingers grasped the man's body, and instantly the area surrounding them within several meters turned into chaos. All layers of space disintegrated, and a terrifying force assaulted the walls of the world. Under this strike, the body of the great saint of heaven was utterly wiped out, without even a shred of capability to struggle. First, the 5 golden hoops were crushed, and the heavenly chains disintegrated, followed by the inability of the great saint of heaven to withstand even one strike. This heavily shocked Marquis Chuji and the others. Although the divine body of the great saint was not exceptionally powerful, as a cultivator of the origin Tao of the world, his strength was considered comparable to that of Marquis Liu Yin, and his life-preserving capabilities were strong, yet, he was extremely vulnerable in front of Luo Feng. Boom! Boom! Luo Feng's arms suddenly swelled enormously, resembling pillars of the heavens. His hands simultaneously reached out toward the elderly man and the woman. Luo Feng naturally had detailed intelligence on both the first-class Marquis and the 3 guest officials of the primal chaos realm. In fact, the 3 guest officials had the strongest ability to escape. Thus, Luo Feng dealt with the great saint of heaven, who controlled the heavens and earth first, then the other 2 guest officials. As for Marquis Chu Ji and Marquis Chu Yuan, while strong, they were weaker in terms of escape. Buzz. The palm of Luo Feng's hands, traversing through the void, appeared out of nowhere close to the 2 guest officials of the primal chaos realm. Marquis, let's go. The old woman grabbed Marquis Chu Ji, and in an instant, she disappeared without a trace. The body of the elderly man dispersed, avoiding Luo Feng's grasp. When his body reappeared from afar, he angrily looked towards the silver cage. This cage has cut off the void, separating the inside from the outside world. Luo Feng's silver light cage had cut through every layer of space, preserving only the walls of the world. Phew! The woman, having escaped with Marquis Chu Ji to a distant point above the Marquis mansion, finally looked back with assurance towards the direction of the 1,000-star tower. Marquis, I can only barely take 1 life from the primal chaos realm with me using the causality escape technique, the woman said. I could only bring the Marquis out. The causality escape technique, where one merges with the threads of causality to flee, is a powerful escape method that the woman developed from her study of the origin Tao of causality, based on the heritage she got from the Flame-Wind ancient country. This method of escape, carrying a life form along, significantly increases in difficulty. I owe it to Guest Elder Zun. Without Guest Elder Zun, I could not have escaped. Marquis Chu Ji anxiously looked towards the distance. His gaze penetrated the spatial barriers to view the silver cage. That cage can isolate the inside from the outside, making escape very difficult. Guest Elder Zun, is there a way to save Marquis Chu Yuan and the others? Marquis Chu Ji asked. There's no way. The woman shook her head. Not only are Luo his moves extremely fast, but he can also traverse through the void even under the control of the great saint of heaven. If I were to use the causality escape technique to sneak in, the moment I materialize, I would probably be hit. My godly body is not even as strong as that of brother Luo He. Once hit, this true body would surely die. He must be a transcendence of the primal chaos realm who specializes in physical strength, capable of competing with godly kings with his physical body alone. He's not someone we can contend with, the woman added, somewhat frightened. Marquis Chu Ji grimaced. I didn't expect that this time, only the 2 of us would escape. As a first-class Marquis, Emperor Chu Yu received the news about the battle at the 1,000-star tower immediately, being very well informed within the Chu capital. What, Marquis Chu Yuan and Marquis Chu Ji, 5 of them against brother Luo He? Emperor Chu became anxious. Didn't I warn Brother Luo he to be careful? How could he still have been ambushed? This video will end here.